If you are new to painting and you want to know more about color mixing, but the term color theory makes your eyes glaze over, this video is for you. This will be a very unpopular opinion, but we are not going to talk about the color wheel in this video. Think of this as a precursor to those types of lessons, where I'm going to give you some of the more popular color mixing formulas and tips. And when you're comfortable mixing and using these, then maybe you'll want to dive a little deeper into color theory and the color wheel. So grab whatever paints you have, whether it's tubes or pans or professional grade or student grade, it doesn't matter. Just go grab whatever paints you have, a paintbrush, some scrap watercolor paper, and let's get you to mixing some really great colors that you can use from now on throughout your artistic journey. If you're brand new, it may be helpful to start yourself a little book. So I have this book where I have all of my colors in it. And so I have them sectioned by, groups like greens, reds, yellows, all that. But I have a special page just for mixes. So as I'm painting and I come up with a mix that I really like and I think I'm going to want to use again, I put it in this little book. This is very handy when you're just starting out and you're just learning about color mixing. Because if you're like me, it's all kind of overwhelming, and then you're gonna go, ooh, I wish I remembered how I got that green in this particular painting because I would like to reuse it. So anyway, here you go. That's my greens, and actually I have 2 pages. I should have gotten a bigger book. So if you're really serious about this, get yourself something a little larger than this. Okay, so before we get started, let me just show you, I've prepped my paper a little bit. So we are going to have 6 rows that we're working with, just in case you want to get your paper ready as well. And I've kind of gone through a few of them and put down some base colors. For instance, like the first one we're going to do is yellow. And these are just colors straight out of the tube. So I went ahead and did those so that you don't have to watch me just paint regular colors straight out of the tube, just to save time. If you watch my channel, then more than likely you paint a lot of flowers like I do. So I thought we would start with yellow. This comes into play when we're painting the center of flowers. It's really better to use more than one color. So grab a yellow, any yellow, it doesn't matter, whatever you have. Now, if you're painting the center of a flower, you'll likely want another yellow to go with it. Now, there's a lot of ways you can do it, but I have found that a really great way to deepen your yellow, I'm using cadmium-free yellow, that's one of my favorites. But of course, if you have cadmium yellow, that's a pretty basic color. I just happen to like the cadmium-free versions better when I can get them. But so take your first yellow and fill up your whole spot. And of course you can do squares. You don't have to do hearts, but it's Valentine's, it's February, so I thought hearts would be fun. Now to deepen that color, you could add a brown. Like Van Dyke brown is a very common brown, but it will also turn your yellow pretty dark. You have to use it very sparingly, and to me it just kind of dirties up the yellow. It's kind of, it ruins that luminosity. So what we're going to do, there's 2 different ones that I use quite a bit. So I'm putting my yellow, the same yellow here, the cadmium-free yellow, and I'm going to grab a little yellow ochre. What that does is deepens that color without destroying the luminosity of the yellow. I think I'm probably going to want a little more of the yellow in here. And you just play with it till you feel like it's deeper than that, but not too brown. All right. Now I'm going to take that color. This is dry. I'm going to place it on top there. Now see how lovely that is? If I were doing a flower, a yellow flower, and I wanted to paint some shadows on those petals, this would be a great one to use. See how rich that is? It just adds a little richness and depth without destroying that yellow. And then if you want to go a little deeper, we are going to take the yellow ochre, the cadmium-free yellow, and add raw sienna. Oh, I've got a piece of Van Dyke brown in there. I don't want to get that. Now see how the raw sienna is more brown. So let's grab a little more yellow. Okay. Okay, that looks good. Now, both of those are really great combinations, and you can use both raw sienna and yellow ochre with any yellow. All right, let's move on to our reds and our blues. So the thing that I want you to remember here, think back to first or second grade, probably first grade, when you learned that red plus blue equals purple, okay? That's all you need to know here. So pink is really a variation of red, which is why I put that here. So when you're painting with reds, let's say red flowers, and you need a deeper shadow, you could use sepia to deepen that color, but sometimes that sepia can get a little too brown on you. So there's a better way. Since blue and red is purple, you can use purple to deepen your red. But you want to use that same red to make the deeper color. So I'm going to use a purple or violet that, you can use any kind of purple or violet. So I'm going to use a new one that I have found, Rose of Ultramarine by Daniel Smith. Now, I love this color and it goes really well with Nathal Red. So I'm using that, but you use any violet or purple that you have and any red that you have. So I'm going to put a little bit of this on my palette with this Nathal Red. I'll put it right here so you can see it. We don't need much. Add a little water to this. Look at that. And you just keep mixing it until you get it as deep as you want it. You can have it a little more to the purple or a little more to the red. Oops, okay, I just messed that up. Too much. It was just about perfect and I messed it up. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'll dab my brush off so we don't have too much. Look how rich and lovely that is. Ooh, that's so nice. And it's not a dirty brown, it's a rich red. So just to show you, this works. No matter what your red or your pink or your purple is. Let's go to this permanent rose. So that's this one. Let's just put that right here. And I'm going to use quinacridone violet. I could use regular violet, would be just fine. But quinacridone violet has a little pink already in it. See, I'll put it right there. See how pinky that is? And I'll show you a minute the regular violet so that you can compare it. But for now, let's just keep mixing this one. We'll compare that purple in a minute, that violet. That's really purpley. I don't want quite that purpley. So you just keep mixing it till you get it the tone you want it. Okay, I think that's probably pretty good. Dab my brush off. Oops. The perfect shadow. Look at that. How lovely. And if you needed 2 or 3 shades between these, you can adjust it easily. Just by varying your mix a little bit. Okay, and to show you that it does work on blue, let's try the blue one. So that's cerulean blue. Turn my palette around so you can see the cerulean blue. There we go, here's a little cerulean right here. And I will just add regular violet to that one. Oh, I was going to show you the difference in quinacridone violet and regular violet. So here's the quinacridone right there. And here is regular violet. So see, that's much more blue and that's much more pink. Okay. So let's get a little bit, ooh, that's strong. Little bit of the blue, purple, rather, violet. See how lovely that is. Just get it as deep as you want it. Let's dab it off. So it's not too watery. Okay, that's a lot of watery. Got my mixture fairly watery there by accident. But I think you can see what a lovely contrast that is. Okay. So any red, any pink, any blue can be intensified and deepened with purple or violet. All right. Now let's talk about a very popular mixture to get gray is French ultramarine and burnt sienna. Artists of all levels have used this mixture for ever and ever and ever. I mean, the greats use this, Rembrandt, Picasso, Bob Ross, they all have used this combination to get gray. There are a lot of different ways to get gray. It just depends on what kind of a feel you like. I particularly like this combination because it's easy to adjust between warm and cool. So if we take our French ultramarine, I ran out of my tube, So I had to steal French Ultramarine from my Take palette. And you can play around with blues and browns. You can even get gray by adding some yellow. It's just, I should let that sit for a minute because now it's going to be very watery. You can get gray with French Ultramarine, cadmium red, cadmium yellow, but you want to be real careful with that mixture because it can get real muddy. I like this one because it's not so muddy. You can use burnt umber as well. Burnt sienna or burnt umber, whichever you have on hand. You can play around with your blues and your browns till you find a combination you really like to get gray. So there's our French Ultramarine. This is our burnt sienna. So you can already see that it's turning gray. We'll just add more blue. I tend to like my grays a little more on the blue side, but it kind of depends on what I'm doing too. If I'm painting animals, then I want it more on the brown side. All right, let's check this out. There we go, that's a nice gray. And I like French Ultramarine, especially for animals when mixing gray, because it granulates and it separates a little bit from that burnt sienna or burnt umber, whichever one you're using. It separates a little bit, and then you get some variation between the gray and the brown, which I just think looks better for the skin of like a seal or an elephant. See, there you go. That's a lovely gray. All right, let's move on to one of my favorite mixtures, specifically for glass. When I paint a vase, a glass vase that has water in it and there are flowers in it, this is my go-to. And if you've seen any of my videos where I've done that, you'll see that it can vary a little bit, but it looks lovely. So we're going to take cerulean blue. You know what? I need to wipe my palette a little bit because I have too much going on there. Let's make us some space. Try not to get that green too involved there. Okay. So we're going to take cerulean blue. That was a little more than I wanted. And a little sap green. And I have mixed up way too much. And you just kind of play with it. Sometimes I go more green, sometimes I go more blue. But I like this because when I'm doing the glass, and then while it's still wet, I can drag a stem, a green stem, down into that vase. It just looks really pretty. They merge very well together because this has green in it. I'm going to thin that out a little bit. There we go. That's the color I'm looking for. I'm going to spread that out because I didn't mean to put so much down. Got this very watery. I forgot to dab my brush after I cleaned it, so I ended up with a lot of water in my brush. So I've got a lot of pooling here, so don't forget after you clean your brush to dab it off on your paper towel so that doesn't happen to you. Okay. And I didn't name this one because it's just a mixture that I came up with, and I don't know what you would call that. Glass blue, maybe? I like that. Maybe glass blue. Okay, another thing that I love to do is to take sap green, because it can be pretty bright, and that doesn't always go with my composition. So I like to tone that brightness down by adding either olive green or sometimes green gold, depending. And sometimes I mix all three. They really get mixed on my palette, and so, you know, that gives you a good look too. But I was going to show you this one in case you haven't seen it. So here's the sap. And we're going to put a little bit of olive in it just to tone the green down. Make it a little earthier. Because see, that's very earthy. A little more sap. Okay. See how rich that is? And not quite so bright, especially when it dries. That's pretty dark. This is very similar to deep sap, just a touch more earthy than deep sap. But what a lovely color. Okay, now if we go to sap and green gold, all we're doing is toning down the sap with some yellow, because there's lots of yellow in this green gold. And you could do that. You can make green gold yourself by adding sap and yellow. But to tone that down with a little more yellow, without going really yellow. Let's see. Yes, that's good. See how that's sap green, but a little more to the yellow side. And you can add more yellow if you want, of course, to make it a little more yellow. So I often use all of these together for different leaves. So I might have in a composition some stems with just sap, and then I may have a different flower type. Let's say, you know, maybe that's a tulip, and then maybe I have a different kind of flower that I'm using olive, or the combination. And then a third type of flower where I'm using this one. So that helps all of your composition coordinate. If you can use at least one of the colors in your mixes, then it helps all of your composition go together more smoothly. Now, the last thing I want to point out, if you are brand new to color mixing, you have no doubt made mud, which is also brown, just depending on, you know, sometimes it's really pretty brown, depending on how you got there. But if you're not trying to make brown, this often frustrates a lot of new artists. So here are the colors that you need to stay away from if you're having trouble with that. If you mix yellow and purple, you are going to get mud. If you mix orange and blue, you're likely to get mud. Red and green will give you a really pretty brown, actually. But if that's not what you're going for, avoid these colors. And of course, the three primary colors, red, yellow, blue, when you mix all three of those, they are going to give you mud or brown. If you don't have a brown that you're looking for, you might want to try these. This one is yellow and purple, and that's not a very pretty color to my eye. But some of these do give you really pretty colors. So that's just a little tip to avoid mud. Well, I hope you tried this, and I hope you had fun doing that. If you did, please leave me a comment below and let me know. See you next time.